The Garden That Borrowed Time. English Story Level 6. In the quiet town of Marrowfield stood an abandoned greenhouse that everyone avoided. The glass panes were cracked, vines curled through broken frames, and the air around it always felt oddly cold. But 16-year-old Leora, who adored plants more than people, felt drawn to it every time she passed by. One afternoon, pushed by curiosity stronger than her fear, she stepped inside. The air shimmered faintly, as if the greenhouse were breathing. As she explored, she found a single unbroken glass panel at the far end. Behind it grew a glowing blue lily, suspended midair as though frozen in time. When Leora touched the panel, reality rippled. A voice whispered through the greenhouse, telling her she had found the chronobloom, a plant that grew only in a pocket of borrowed time. Shocked, but fascinated, Leora felt the world tilt as the panel dissolved and she fell forward into a different realm. She landed in a garden unlike any she had seen before. Every plant shimmered with shifting hues, leaves rewinding their movements like tiny films looping backward. Birds flew in spirals that reversed mid-flight. At the garden's center stood a tall, silver-haired woman wearing robes woven with hourglass patterns. She introduced herself as Thalia, keeper of the temporal garden. Thalia explained that this garden existed outside normal time, nurturing plants that controlled temporal balance across the world. But recently the time flow had weakened. Some plants wilted unnaturally, others grew too rapidly. The chronobloom Leora had seen was a signal that the outer layer of time was cracking. Thalia needed a mortal's help because mortals lived fully in linear time. They could detect disturbances she could not. She gifted Leora a seed-shaped pendant that allowed her to move through the garden without being rewound or fast-forwarded by temporal shifts. Leora's task was to find a plant known as the Aeon Thorn, which had begun absorbing too much time, threatening to destabilize the entire temporal cycle. If left unchecked, the real world would experience time fractures, days repeating, years vanishing, memories splintering. Leora ventured into deeper sections of the garden, where time behaved unpredictably. In one area, she watched a tree bloom, fruit, and wither in seconds. In another, glowing spores drifted backward into their pods. She felt her sense of direction warp until she could no longer tell if she was moving forward or backward. But the pendant pulsed gently, guiding her like a heartbeat. Eventually, she reached a dark grove where everything stood still, no motion, no sound, no drifting timelight. At the center grew the Aeon Thorn, its black vines wrapped tightly around a glowing temporal stream. It sucked away the light with such hunger that the garden trembled with each pulse. Leora approached cautiously, knowing she had to prune it, but touching it directly could trap her in a frozen moment forever. She remembered Thalia's words. Plants responded to intention. Kneeling, Leora whispered to the garden about her desire to restore balance. The pendant glowed, sending a soft wave outward. The Aeon Thorn loosened slightly, sensing her purpose. Summoning her courage, she reached forward and snapped the central vine. Time exploded outward like a burst of wind, knocking her onto the grass. The grove brightened slowly. The temporal stream regained its color, flowing freely once again. The Aeon Thorn shrank into a harmless seed, which Leora tucked into her pocket. As she stood, Thalia appeared, smiling proudly. She told Leora that the garden and the world was safe for now. The pendant began to shine brightly, signaling that the bridge back home was opening. Leora returned to the abandoned greenhouse, the chronobloom now gently glowing instead of flickering. She knew the garden existed beyond normal sight, but she felt its rhythm in her chest. From then on, every time she nurtured her plants she sensed the time in them steady, balanced, alive.